Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I really want to talk to you about the research you recently released on Staycations, what your views on that is, whether you think that's just the feedback was about a moment in time, or do you think that's actually a consistent message we're seeing? And actually what your general feedback you're getting from market is, and what your perception of what the kind of trends are at this point in time, if that's okay. Stephen, let's start with you. Firstly, your thoughts on that piece of research. It is encouraging.
I think it probably is a moment in time, and lots of the surveys that we've done this year have reflected what's been going on at that moment in time. And sometimes when you ask the same question, sometimes only a few weeks later, you can get quite a different response. And that shows the pace at which things are changing. But there's also quite a consistent pattern that's emerged. And there's I suppose a weariness that has built up over the months, and almost an acceptance that kind of this is the way things are for a period of time, and people kind of settle into their new normal for a bit, and then something jolts them out of that for a little while. But the general direction of travel is one of really kind of coming to terms with the situation that we're in right now. And if we project that forward into next year, it's fairly clear that there's going to be a lot of staycation activity. People will be going abroad, of course. It will be possible to do that, but there will be different situations in different countries, and there's an opportunity, I think, now to change people's perceptions. We've seen this year from the some of the notes that Keit put out recently that that people have been experimenting with staycations more so than they had before. But I think also that people are willing to accept change, to do things differently. It's become part of what we do this year. And whereas maybe before there might have been certain preconceived ideas of what a staycation was, I think that's all up for changing and changing people's perception. But yeah, general direction of travel, I think, is one of staying safe, keeping close to home, trying to get a little bit of predictability into the next year.
Keit, Chloe, your thoughts?
I'll go first. I think, to be honest, I think that staycations are here to stay. I've done a bit of research just on the internet, looking at other surveys that people put together, and the consensus is very much a case of staycations are here to stay. People are looking forward to basically going to places, and not just hotels, but venues, restaurants, bars, anywhere as soon as possible. I think the days leading to lockdown 2 were a really good indication of that, where restaurants were fully booked the days preceding the lockdown. And I think that kind of sentiment carries over to the other areas of hospitality as well. And even our own panel, they said, and I think it was 58% of people, of the respondents, said that their behavior had changed in terms of how attractive the idea of having a holiday in the UK was to them. So that the prospect of having a UK-based holiday was more attractive to them now than before the pandemic. It was 3 out of 5, so I think it's quite a strong indicator there. So yeah, I think this trend is here to stay with us for a while.
Chloe, I mean, the figures were very promising, weren't they, in terms of staycations? It's interesting, though, in November, the one thing we've spotted is there's growing frustration at the moment. Frustration with the lockdown, but also a frustration that people just want now to get out, get back to normality. I do wonder if that will impact.
I think quite a big thing about lockdown has been about the loss of family. And I think staycations for next year, if allowed, will be a great opportunity for extended family to come together, and especially getting all the different generations together, the older grandparents that haven't been able to interact. I think staycations is a great opportunity to allow that interaction and allow that normality back as well, rather than, you know, having to go abroad and sort out those flights, and you might not necessarily be able to do that with the older generation. I think it's perfect, the staycations, for getting family back together as well.
Interesting, isn't it? I can see you're not very positive, if allowed. Yeah, I think the rest of us are planning to get out as soon as possible.
Yes, yes. I meant so with you know, the older grandparents.
No, be careful. I classify that older generation nowadays. It was a bit of a shock to me. I realised that.
And grandparent. Sorry.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So.
Do you think that the staycations have actually enabled us to fall in love again with the UK? Because I think a lot of people are just so quick to jump on a flight, but it's made a lot to look at the beautiful UK in a whole different way. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think there'd been a trend that had happened over many years, possibly even decades, of people going slightly further and further afield. And we saw it, of course, most recently in the last few years, when it was almost a done thing that you had to go abroad for a hen party and a stag party, that there's some people of a particular age group were finding they were having to go away several times in a year. And now suddenly I think people have thought, well, hang on a minute, there are things that we can do here. And I think Chloe made a really good point about the intergenerational aspect, and that's really something that people are missing at the moment, and there's a great opportunity to facilitate that next year. So yeah, I think people will fall in love. I think it will depend upon the weather a little bit. If we get a spring that's like this year's, then we'll be laughing next year. And I think whilst people's awareness is so much higher, that's where we need to take the opportunity to create those memories for them, make sure things are not just routine, that there are memories that they can take away from them, that they can remember the times that they had. And that sometimes involves doing things slightly differently, trying to build in that element of surprise, create those opportunities for people to talk about their experience in a positive way. Because if it's routine, then they won't do that. So yeah, I think there's a great opportunity to exploit that in the next year.
And we seem to have lost. He's obviously fascinated by what you're saying, and he's just dipped out and explore the countryside himself.
He's gone to make a booking.
Yeah, he has, absolutely. So when you say about, you know, how can hotels do something that is exciting, because it's been very much around a lot of competition, obviously, with staycations. So what we know that the safety side of it was huge, but you do say, Stephen, about, you know, it being how to create something exciting, something memorable. What have you seen out there? What are the trends? What do you think the future holds from that perspective?
Anyone want to chip in here?
I'm happy to chip in here. I was thinking about this particular thing just before we went onto our call, and I think that broadly we have to think about what consumers want and what they're missing. So a very strong sentiment, I believe, is the lack of any kind of Christmas experiences. I think so many people every year visit Christmas markets, whether it's in the UK, whether it's abroad, and other Christmas themed attractions like Winter Wonderland, for example. It's such a it's such a strong need to go and do something Christmassy. So this is what customers will be missing out on this year. So they will be looking to recreate those experiences elsewhere as close as they can possibly get to it. So you know, how can hotels, how could they provide that kind of Christmassy feeling? So there's so many things that they can actually do and explore. Something quite simple like setting up a COVID-safe Santa's grotto, or a beautiful light installation. Really go all out with the Christmas decorations this year. Perhaps set up a little market stall where indoors or outdoors, where people could get some mulled wine from, and perhaps for the guests, hotels could put together a little present, you know, something token, something quite cheap, just a little trinket, really, and perhaps add value to it with a discount voucher for the future. Here's a little trinket for you, and if you come back to us in the summer, here's, I don't know, 5 to 10% off, or perhaps even a little sort of marketing trick there to provide a discount voucher for your friend. And if your friend stays with us in the next year or so, then you both get a discount. There's a lot that they can do, really. I've written about this before. It's not so much what operators do. It's that they do something, something memorable, something unique, something exciting, that basically creates that experiential value, and essentially something that consumers will want to shout about, something that they can tell their friends about over Zoom, perhaps in person, something that's really Instagrammable. I think that's the real key there.
Yeah.
You're a great believer in social media. Yes.
I am.
You're a great believer in social media, are you? The power of social media.
Absolutely. Thinking about hotels in general, I think loyalty is one aspect of what they can nurture, but a much stronger performer would be recommendations and referrals, and that's what social media can do for operators. If you think about yourself, for example, are you the type of person who would go to a hotel every year, be a really loyal customer, go to the same place and really enjoy yourself? Or are you the kind of person who never goes to a hotel twice? I would personally be of the school of I would never go to the same place twice. Hence, it's really important to the operators of who I tell my experiences about. Do I rave to my friend and say, I've gone to this place, it was fantastic, you have to try it? Or do I say, actually, it was okay?
Yeah.
I think the key thing there is if it's just okay, people aren't going to bother talking about it at all. You've got to have a story that you can recount to people. Humans love stories, and I think possibly the flip side of what Keit's saying there is that there will be a large proportion of the population who, when they go away, want to stay somewhere different. But hotels aren't always about staying away from home, and there's an opportunity that I think is increased now that during the course of this year, that's driven by the whole localism, that people are not traveling so much. And if you value something that's kind of reasonably local to you, actually you will visit there more often. You'll go back more and more, and it will become a place that you trust, and somewhere that you take your family or your friends because you know you're going to get a good experience. So there's a real opportunity, I think, to not just think about people staying away from home, but perhaps having close to home experiences and having more of them.
I mean, there's a number of interesting debates going on about it. One is about the importance of technology and how that's going to impact on service, and whether services will become less personal because of technology. The others argue that actually people really desire personal service, and that's got to up its ante, because actually to create an experience, you've got to create an even better personal experience. then goes on to the localism and food piece, because the results you get in the research are very good. But can hotels maintain the same caliber of chef culinary teams on site if we don't bounce back? And therefore the models are going to have to change as well. So again, how do we get that? So there's some fascinating discussions yet to come, aren't there, on service levels?
Yeah, I think that's, you know, one thing to be aware of, there was always a struggle to get decent chefs. There are a lot of chefs that are on the market now who would you know, who would probably love an opportunity to be part of something. And in terms of technology, I wouldn't position it as kind of as kind of two ends of a spectrum, because technology should really enhance an experience rather than replace it. And very often it's about efficiency. If you can, you know, if there are things that are routine, then technology is very good at automating that, so that you can then use the time or the capacity that's freed up to do more personal things, and to kind of let that personality come out. So I think if hotels can see technology as an enabler, as something that makes them better at what they do, rather than making them less personal, it could actually make them more personal if it's used in the right way.
I agree with Steve. My favourite coffee shop down the road, they've tried to get as much tech in as possible to allow them to have more time to interact with every single customer. And because they're doing that, they've become almost this viral sensation for the city of Bath for their guest experience, because they ask every single person about their day, they get to know them. You know, it's almost like, do you want your regular? And they're memorizing everyone's orders. And it's just allowing that opportunity for them to have more time to do it, when previously they would have been rushing through and having to deal with the till, deal with loyalty cards. Now it's all automated and it's all just through a tap system. And it's great to see, because it is bringing that personal touch back in such a busy time for them. So yeah, I agree. It's enabling the guest experience to become more personalised.
If we go back to Stephen's point about localism, how do you see that impacting and playing out in terms of the actual service levels?
So I was talking to Keit about localism the other day, feeding into Instagram. So especially in Bath, we've seen a massive increase in community on social media, and that's both community of fans and ambassadors, but also community within the operators. And we've seen different coffee shops recommending other coffee shops when they've, say, sold out of their bagels, they then recommend so-and-so down the road. It's amazing to see, and it's just that support within the city is oozing out from operators and into the guests as well. I've really enjoyed seeing it through lockdown, sort of evolving over time. It's really great to see.
Keit?
I would like to just go back to the technology point just for a moment. I wanted to add that it's, as both Steve and Chloe said, it's all about how the operator uses technology. If you put the guest experience in the heart of what you're trying to do, then you probably come out of it enhancing the experience using technology rather than hindering it. Because the very idea of it is that it's supposed to, as Chloe said, to take away the menial tasks that take up time and resource, automate it, and leave.
Pushing back, Keit, yeah, get all that. Pushing back for a second, people are so, as your research will tell you, I'm sure, people are tired of automated systems. And those telephone systems, or those insurance systems, or those banking systems we will have to go through. People want personal service again. So the logic is right, but actually it's very rare you can find a balance where technology is actually enabling service. That's the challenge, isn't it?
I think one good example is to look at those parts of the guest experience that, let's be honest, great at the moment. who appreciates turning up to a check-in desk and it taking sometimes 10, 15 minutes to check you in? Why haven't you got all these details ready? Why do I have to queue behind other people? Why can't it be more efficient? Why do I have to wait for someone to go and get my bill? Why isn't there a more efficient way of doing that? And if we can, if you can, as I say, not look at it as in the sense of those horrible things that we hate about call centers and all of that stuff. That's not personalizing the experience at all. But it's about looking at those parts of the experience which already are not nice. They do great on the experience, and they could be made more efficient. And often that efficiency is not just for the operator, it's actually for the guest as well. And then make that slick, make it easy, make it so that you can then have that interaction, that conversation. You can do things when you want to do them and not have to queue behind other people. That's when it starts to lighten the whole mood.
Yes, it's about using it correctly. Absolutely, Chris. No one likes these robots on the other side of the line. But for example, if you think about Sainsbury's, for example, and their loyalty program, what's good about the automation there is that they know that, for example, once a week you like to buy a bottle of red wine, for example. So in anticipation of that, they say, here's a voucher for you. And it's about these little details that are supposed to enhance your experience rather than hinder it.
Actually, Lauren had a fantastic example of this, exactly what you're saying, didn't you, last week on retail? Retail, creating a new service level in retail.
Oh yes, absolutely. Where it's, I'm the worst clothes shopper in the world. I have no time. But what they were looking at is how they can personalize shopping when we can't go into shops. And they'd actually looked at how you can have a personal shopper, and through Zoom, through Instagram, through email, you can get in touch with a personal shopper who can show you live on someone's body type clothing and send it to your front door for you to try on, and then still be there for the after sales service to see how you liked it. Is there something else? And if you don't, send it back. So just because we couldn't go into the shops, they have made the whole experience extremely personal through using technology from a retail perspective. So I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, but that is also, and their figures as a result have held up, haven't they?
Yeah, they have 50% of their footfall was tourists. They relied 50% of their income and shoppers were visitors, tourists, and they've only gone down 12% on their numbers over the entire period of the pandemic. So that they realized that people are stuck at home, still wanted to shop, and just how could they use technology in a smart way to enable that experience and make it personal, and still allow people to spend crazy amounts of money. And they did it really, really well. And I suppose even when they do go back to the normal where you are able to shop, there'll still be loads of people wanting to use technology that in that sort of smart personal way. So I thought very clever.
And that's all about enhancing the experience, isn't it? And
yeah.
And starting from the things that people value, but also imagining the things that they might value if you were able to deliver them. Because sometimes it's about innovation as well. And is there a different way of doing this? Can we create those memorable experiences in a different way? And then once you've worked out what is of value, it's a case of getting that value delivered as efficiently as possible, and making it fun. One of the other trends that we've seen over the last, well, particularly the last decade, last sort of 10, 20 years, is that experiences have become less formal. Hotels used to be a kind of way in which you would experience a hotel, the same way that you would experience a restaurant experience. It was a lot more formal, whereas informality has become much more of a much more attractive part of the experience. And I think we'll see that particularly more continuing now as a result of what's happened. And there's that opportunity to redefine what is normal. And maybe there isn't a normal now. Why do hotel visits have to be done in the same way every time? And that's something that had been happening for a few years anyway. And even some quite upmarket hotel brands had cleverly introduced elements of informality into their whole experience, and I think people increasingly value that.
I suppose informality breeds, well, it breeds personality and making things more personable. And like what Keit was saying, you're doing something that's slightly exceptional. It doesn't have to be a massive gesture, but just something that's personal. I remember, Chris, we had there was a talk about, I think it was one hotel. I can't remember if they actually did it or didn't, but were suggesting to go into people's social media accounts and printing off photographs.
Right. That's what they were doing. Actually, and it went pear-shaped, yeah. It's out in the US, and what they do, they download your personal photographs to put in the room, which is fine. Which is fine until you get the wrong lady or the wrong gentleman. Yeah. Which is actually what happened in one case in London, where they put the wrong person's name up on with the husband. Which is
maybe not like that, but definitely from a personal perspective, that is losing that informality, and it's all about making somewhere feel like home. And can't.
But I mean, that's what's going to be really interesting, is how this comes up, because again in the US, people are creating personalized menus for people. Mm-hmm. So when people arrive, there's a menu on in the person's hotel room for them, personalized for them.
I think it's working out where you're stepping over the line. That all sounds a bit creepy to me. I'm not sure I'd like that. I think it's good that people experiment. You have to try these things out. Perhaps use a bit of judgment in some of those things, but sometimes you will get things wrong. If you're not getting things wrong, then you're not trying hard enough, or you're not experimenting enough. So try these things out. But if they don't work, stop them straight away and move on to something else. Try might work. I'm not sure I would want my pictures of me up in my room when I
agree. Especially if you get it wrong.
I suppose people like to be given the option. If it's all about the way you present it, and I'm talking about the menu and not the pictures. So if you say you check in and you're given an option to take advantage of the personalized offer, you might as well. So perhaps it could look like something like a quick little quiz. What kind of dishes do you like? Just sort of click yes or no, or swipe left or right, and then based on what you'd like before, you've got a personalized, bespoke menu from the chef, and that sounds exciting and really bespoke. But if it's something that's sort of automatic, here's your personalized.
If I'm being fair, the points they were making, which are valid, was when you go to a hotel room, how many people actually eat the fruit that's on the table?
Yeah,
and it's very rarely touched. So what could you do differently than that? And there's actually a growing number of people who are gluten or vegan, and it's making them feel welcome, because often they hate going to operations because they feel catered for. So in fairness, there's a lot of good. It's how everyone's right. It's getting balance, isn't it? But it's thinking differently about how do you make someone feel. How do you personalize an experience to somebody, and how do you make them feel special? So forecasts next year from the three of you. Stephen, I'll start with you. Your personal forecast.
Oh, I believe in the ingenuity of our hospitality sector. I think people can see the opportunity that's coming next year. I think there will be a lot of innovation over the course of the next year. I think the market is ready for it, and I think that some of that will stick for some time afterwards. I think it will be a cracking year. I think there's also an opportunity for operators to push out of those kind of peak periods, whether that's kind of peak time of the week or peak time of the year. So I would hope to see that in the next year it will be a cracking year once we get past this current phase.
Good. That's a positive one. Chloe?
Yeah, I think staycations are here to stay. It feeds into also the ongoing, ever-changing trend of sustainability as well. This has made people more aware of their carbon footprint. So it's just it's a positive in my eyes to stay closer to home, and also staying away from public transport, which people might be nervous of. So yeah, I think staycations are still going to be really relevant for us.
Keit?
I agree. I agree with both Steve and Chloe, and that the industry will be innovative and put out some offers that will be really attractive. Chloe's so right to mention sustainability as well, because the environment is becoming a bigger and bigger focal point, and being environmentally friendly is well, it's trendy from a brand perspective, and thirdly, just what I'll add to the pot is that consumers are ready for it. Everyone is so bored with lockdowns and restrictions, and they just want to put that behind them. And so when they can, they will go out and enjoy themselves again, and that includes taking part in all kinds of experiences, including staycations. So all the three sides kind of come together into one big yes.
Very nice, positive comments. Oh, look, can I thank you for your time this afternoon? It's been a pleasure talking to you, and it'll be really fascinating to see how this all evolves next year, won't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Lauren, any final words?
Well, I'm just borrowing everyone else's air miles so I can go and visit my mom in South Africa. So thank you very much for all your staycations and your carbon footprints.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.